So the Sabres have won 8 games in a row. A lot of them on the road, a few in overtime and shootouts. They've been close games largely throughout. Nice win on Saturday. How impressed are you by what they look like in these 8 games? And is it markedly different to your eyes than what it looked like before?
I think what I'm seeing the best from them now over the course of this win streak is that they're handling the lead and they're handling the end of games much better than they did in the past. They seemingly always seem to find ways to give up a late goal, take a terrible late penalty. Now that piece maybe is still there a little. They are still taking some late penalties here and there. But for the most part, what Jarmo Kekalainen said about maybe not scoring the next goal or trying to score the next goal when they have the lead, trying just to make sure that they figure out a way to win. I know that maybe sounds like a more conservative style approach, but they are getting it done. They are getting results. They've won almost every single third period here through this win streak. So I think that there's something to that what he's saying is that they are figuring out ways to handle adversity. They definitely are handling the late game pressure. The other team has pulled their goalie at 6-on-5 or 6-on-4 or 5-on-4. They've figured out that a whole bunch better than what it used to be, where it used to be kind of like a firing squad kind of thing where you just shut your eyes and think, gee, are they going to get through this? They actually have really done a really nice job, I think, in the final 5 minutes of games. I think that's probably where they've been the most impressive. And one thing, too, they are getting pretty consistent goaltending throughout. Alex Lyon obviously has been really, really good through the bulk of this. A couple of starts, too, with Luukkonen, and that has been something that we know that's been missing for this team throughout this entire drought, is that they've gotten very inconsistent goaltending. So I think that whole mindset of getting good goaltending, playing smart in front of them, especially late in the third period, I think that's been a big piece of why they've been able to get on this run right now.
Sounds good to me. The goaltending piece is a little scary because you just never know what you're going to get, like how long it's going to last. There is, though, the point about 2 goalies versus 3. Hard to say, I guess, because you have to get inside their brains. But do you think that simple change when Ellis went out with the injury might have relaxed the 2 goalies left standing and maybe then a ripple effect through the team that this is a headache, even maybe an embarrassment that they were having to suffer through that's gone?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that is probably put both of them a little bit at ease. They've all said, all 3 of them at some point, that, hey, the more I play, the better I'm going to be. Of course, that makes sense. But now they're getting extra practice time. That's one thing, too, that I think maybe I didn't put enough stock in, or at least didn't think to put enough stock in, is that these players are saying, look, 3 goalies at practice sometimes is even an issue in terms of getting enough shots, getting enough reps. So that piece is something that maybe through this Ellis injury has been a piece that now they've been able to get a little bit more net time in there too. I still think ultimately the team would love for Luukkonen to grab the job. Ultimately, they've committed to him a little bit more long term. In the end, I think though Lyon has probably, if you were going to say who has been the better player in terms of who's been had the better A-game stuff, I think I give a slight edge to Lyon so far in this. Luukkonen had some inconsistencies. Obviously, these last 2 starts, he's been much better. So, and maybe Luukkonen himself is feeling a little bit pressure of saying, look, Lyon's getting these games. He's playing well. I've got to now be ready to go and step in. I know there's a side layer to that, too, that Luukkonen really wants to perform well so that he can get selected for the Finnish Olympic team. That's going to be a piece of it, too, here, as obviously teams are going to be selected here in the next coming days and weeks. So he's probably also got that internal desire to want to play great every time he's out there. Not that he wouldn't want to if it was an Olympic year, but I think that's another really, really big goal and focus for him, that he wants to represent his country in the Olympics.
It's a lot of psychology, amateur psychologist stuff with the Sabres for me, Brian, because there have been seasons where even last year, like 5-on-5 stuff, their shot share wasn't bad, but then they're like nowhere near the playoff race. And you can throw your arms up. It's just so frustrating. Goalies do them in or whatever it is, special teams, right? Yep. And so it's easier. It's always easier, much easier. But I'm inclined with them to buy into some level of that. The pressure came off when Adams was let go, and maybe the combination of just the move itself plus whatever kind of message was sent from it, like we're going to be serious now. That's kind of the way I think a lot of people reacted to the move. Like they're getting a little bit more serious. I want to think that players would respond positively to that, and they haven't lost a game.
I think so. And I think probably if you go to the big voices of this team, it's Darlene and it's Thompson, they seemingly through, here and there subtly have maybe said that they've been disappointed that Kevin Adams didn't do enough in the past or even this offseason to rebolster this team. So I feel like maybe there is a belief right now, hey, we have a guy here that can run an organization properly. We can get behind him. It's amazing to think that the roster with this GM change and the couple of front office additions, the roster itself hasn't changed a lick. It's still the exact same group. So in that sense, there's probably an argument to say, well, what ultimately did change? How much of that really is a value of mindset, like you said? And Paul keeps saying that, from his conversation, he feels like just being around the players, that there's a cloud that's been lifted off of them, that they feel now like, hey, we are a serious organization. We are going to be one that can maybe compete and do whatever it is necessary off the ice for the general manager and his staff would do in order to push them to where they need to be in the next step. I'd also put a piece, too. They are getting healthier. That's helping. Even today, Jason Zucker skating. It doesn't look like he is going to play tonight, but he's very close. He was a huge piece of their special teams improvement, especially on the power play. And I'd also argue that they're getting a lot more contributions from their third and fourth lines than they have in previous seasons. What they've been getting from Malenstein this year and Dunn when he's been in and out of the lineup, and Greenway during his load management in and out of the lineup, it's been not only something that they haven't lost ground on, but they've actually, I think, gained ground when they've been out on the ice. Not only are they doing a great job shutting down the opponent, but they're getting offensive opportunities too, or they're creating those shifts in the game, whether it's a big hit or a big defensive stop that gets this team kind of uplifted. And Norris being healthy has been big. Him and Oslin and Tuck, that group together seemingly has been gelling really nice. Benson's been such an energy machine. So has Doan. There's one thing that I think we have to say, that the trade of J.J. Peterka, while the bigger piece was supposed to be Michael Kesselring, I think we can definitely say that Josh Doan so far has been just a huge bolt to this team in terms of energy, in terms of production, and in terms of playing how Lindy Ruff wants them to play. So I got to give a little credit to that trade there and the Doan piece of it, of how good that's worked out.
It's such a fine line here. It's so heavily congested. The Sabres have made it up to the line at 42 points, a win tonight, and they might have a playoff spot tomorrow. There are a lot of games tonight, but I don't think Florida plays, so they'd have a look at that. That's one team they're tied with. I guess I want to say then to this point, no small thing is it that the Sabres are 3-0 in shootouts. Pittsburgh is 1-5. Take the Sabres 19-14-4, or 19-18, and take 3 of those wins and make them overtime losses, 16-14-7. 16-21. That's the shootout. That's the difference in the 3 shootout wins. St. Louis, if you want it, is 0-2, tonight's opponent. How have you sort of been watching Lindy Ruff through this, either on the bench or through press conferences? Like, is he just kind of been riding this out, the change above him, and whatever else you might have seen from Ruff or heard?
I think Ruff maybe has been re-energized by the change. I don't know. I know a piece of when we saw the general manager change was that maybe we heard rumors about that would Lindy come off of the bench. Yeah. I know that he has really, really let Seth Appert take a lot of responsibilities on the bench, and he's even said that like, hey, this guy's ready to be an NHL coach. I think part of that is just, he wants him to see him succeed. Maybe he would be the successor at some point if Lindy had any sort of say in the decision. But I think what you're seeing from Lindy is you're not hearing frustration of them not handling the moment well, or as he would want them to do in terms of getting to the net. I feel like this over the course of now, as we almost are at the halfway moment here of the season here, we're 3 months in, these same kind of messages over and over about being at the net, not being afraid to be near the net, winning battles, pushing the opposition to the outside, like these things here that we in the past have just all the time have seen in a negative fashion, that he now seemingly has been giving his team praise for, that they're doing it, and he says playing the right way, doing those sort of things. So I think from a Lindy standpoint here, he's got to be excited about the fact that maybe his message is finally getting through. I'm sure at his age, and I'm sure with over the last year and a half, I'm sure there's been very easy for him to say, like, what the hell did I sign up for here? And, I should have ridden off into the sunset and retired, and I've had an outstanding career here. He's top, now what, 4th all-time in wins. I think he just passed another coach there recently. So for him to maybe be the guy that can push them back to the playoffs, even if ultimately he steps aside after this year. We know his contract's up. I think that might feel for him like, hey, that's a whatever he would envision as a nice or a storybook way to kind of end his coaching career. Now, maybe if they push in and they get in, it'll energize him to want to come back for another season. But I think that you're seeing a much more uplifting Lindy Ruff, a little bit more positive. He's very, very willing now to kind of, through the media, tell his players, say that his players are doing the right thing. And those similar messages have been coming across.
Tonight will be his 1,894th game as a head coach. His first was in St. Louis, by the way. I don't know if you remember that. 97-98, taking over for Ted Nolan, a 3-1 win at the Blues.
I don't remember that game specifically if you're asking me for details.
I remember no details, but I always seem to remember that it was in St. Louis. Hasek over Fuhr. That was the goalie matchup in Lindy's first game as Sabres coach. Hasek versus Fuhr. How about that? That I don't know that I ever knew. I probably watched this game, but...
That's a tremendous matchup.
Yes, with heavy Sabres ties. Hasek versus Fuhr in Lindy's first game. I'll say it one more time, maybe. All right, Brian, I'll let you go here. Thanks for giving us some extra time today.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
7 o'clock pregame for Sabres Blues. Look at this Blues roster. Brett Hull, Grant Fuhr, Hasek versus Fuhr, Al McInnes. Is it so long ago now that these names don't mean anything? Do these names mean Brett Hull? Do these names resonate? Chris Pronger, Pierre Turgeon, Sabres. How about us? 3-1 winners. Goals by Daw, Shatan, and Dixon Ward. Lindy's first game as NHL coach for the Sabres, 1997 at St. Louis.